All right. Hey, so thanks everybody for coming today. My name is Cass Stewart. I'm a poem program coordinator. I've been with Poem for first as a mom and then as a volunteer, and now as an employee for about a year and a half. And we're talking to Tiffany today, and I'll hand it to Lindsay for her intro.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Barber. I am the Director of Marketing and Development here at Mental Health America of Ohio, which is the agency that hosts the Poem and Poem Rise programs. So thank you for watching. We're here to hear a little bit more about Tiffany's experience with Poem Rise specifically.
And Tiffany, the intro.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Tiffany Davis Hale. I have been with Poem since I was, I think, around 16 weeks pregnant. And I now have a 9-month-old. So I've been coming to Poem for that full time. Rise.
Poem Rise.
Poem Rise.
Thanks, Tiffany. If you want to start us off, I'm very curious to hear about any challenges, any struggles you had with the maternal mental health system before you came to Poem Rise, or if you didn't engage with the maternal mental health system too much, why not? What stopped you?
So it was interesting when I found out about Rise, because I found out about it through my OBGYN. It was a flyer on the wall, and I really felt like I needed to put some supports in place kind of early on. But I did not know that there was a specific part of mental health that just focused on perinatal mental health and then postpartum mental health and all of those different things. So I had had mental health issues in the past. And when I became pregnant, I was really nervous because I wasn't able to take any of that medication. At that time, I didn't need it, but I was like, what if it pops up? And so I really didn't join, I think, for lack of knowledge. And then early on, I also thought about the stigma that comes along with accessing mental health services while you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Because I always kind of struggled with this feeling that people feel like I've been chronically ill for a good portion of my life. And I don't always feel like people have really understood that journey. And so when I became pregnant, everybody was freaking out because they were like, nothing in your body ever works right. So, but then even though I felt like they understood that, I also feel like the people around me also feel like I'm dramatic, or what I'm like displaying that I'm feeling is not what I'm actually feeling. And so I was like, I feel like when I get pregnant, I don't know how to express that I'm like in pain or mentally not there or whatever it is without feeling like I'm going to be misunderstood, judged, or any of those things. And so I really just didn't, a part of me didn't want to reach out because I was like, now I'm just going to have a whole community of people that are looking at me like I'm crazy. And then the other part was just, I didn't know that it existed. You don't really learn a lot about pregnancy or what happens when you're pregnant while you're pregnant from anyone, which is crazy because we've been having babies since the beginning of time. But yeah.
Thank you.
And
I'm so glad you reached out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really am.
Me too. It was truly a game changer, because when I did go, I did not have the experience where I had a whole community judging me. It was the first time where I felt like I had a community where people really understood what I was thinking. So when I first got on the call, I shared like I couldn't share this experience anywhere else, but I knew like Cass would understand. I knew she would hear where I was coming from and be able to validate me in a way that was meaningful for me, which allows me to then move forward. Like if I didn't have this, I would have stayed with that thought all day, and I would have like festered with it. Um, which, when those intrusive thoughts come, like, oh my goodness, my baby's gonna die. Like, when you say that to people that aren't having your experience, they're like, that's a bit dramatic. Like, how
Right.
do you go from, you know, baby falls off the couch, now baby's dead? Like, how do you make that leap? And it's like, I don't know.
It always makes me think of the presentations that Maggie does, our workplace health director. She always says, never in the history of calming down has telling somebody to calm down ever worked. Never
That
in the whole history of calming down.
Yes, I
Ever.
think I have used that exact statement at
Yeah.
least over 100 times in the last like few years in my line of work.
Yeah, you actually said it last week at support group. And I said,
Oh, really? That's
I
funny.
believe that.
yeah,
I mean, that's a statement I live by.
yes,
Like,
Fantastic.
yes.
never in the history.
And to keep this flow, you said some things that were so key with how poem supported you in your journey to find help for your maternal mental health. How has the Poem Rise program helped you access mental health services? And then a piggyback, how has access to those mental health services empowered other areas of your life? I know your story, but I would love to hear you share that.
Yeah, so a little bit of backdrop. I had a very difficult pregnancy, and it was rough for two reasons. One, because as I mentioned, I've been chronically ill for the majority of my life now at this point. And my body has a lot of strange quirks. So going into the pregnancy, I already felt as though it would be difficult. But when I walk into doctor's offices, they're like, oh, you're thin, you're young, you're healthy, you're fine. And it makes me immediately feel uncomfortable when people do that, because it's like, I have at least six specialists. Like, I have like, I'm at the doctor's office all of the time. Like, I don't view myself as a healthy person. And so I just feel like that already sets me up to be ignored. And in the beginning, I kind of was. So I did change healthcare providers halfway through. And not because that person was bad or anything. It was just like, oh, yeah, you're fine. You're going to be fine. This will be low risk. Like, it'll be a cakewalk. And it surely wasn't. I almost miscarried in the first 12 weeks. So I kind of had to be, I felt like I needed to be a statue, like, don't move. But I had a lot of spotting. I was experiencing a lot of stress. And so they were like, if you can just make it to 12 weeks, you'll be good. So I made it to 12 weeks. Everything kind of calmed down for a bit. And then I found out I had fibroids that were growing at a very fast pace. So my doctor told me that essentially I was experiencing symptoms that was 4 weeks advanced. So even though I was 12 weeks pregnant, I had the symptoms of someone that was 16 weeks pregnant. So we had to start some things a lot earlier in terms of like pain management, and just overall in general, like care. So that caused me to be in a lot of pain for a good portion, because the fibroids were really low and she also sat really low. So my entire pregnancy, she was very low in my pelvis, to the point that most of my ultrasounds, I couldn't see her because they couldn't get to it. So at around, I think like 23, 24 weeks, I almost went into preterm labor, just because of where she was sitting. And she was like in the birthing position, like head down, ready to go. So we needed to, so I got put on bed rest after that, where I had to be lay inverted, so that maybe gravity would pull her up to try to prevent her being delivered early. So I think I was on bed rest from 23, 24 weeks until 32 weeks or so. And then after that, my doctor was like, she's in a good position right now. Like, So just take it easy, but do like continue to do what you've been doing if you feel like that helps. And I was like, oh yeah, it does. And then, but at the same time, my job was having a lot of difficulty with me needing bed rest, with me needing to kind of adjust things. So that was causing a great deal of stress as well, which was also causing issues with my pregnancy. So and then the last part is I gave birth, I had postpartum preeclampsia. So I struggled with really high blood pressure, and twice where I was in stroke range, and I was really scared because the hospitals were understaffed. And so the medicine that I needed to reduce my blood pressure was not made available because the person who had to give the order to administer it was not available. One was in a C-section and the other one, she was like, I'm just a team of one. So I stayed at a blood pressure of about 190 over 130 for 45 minutes. And it was like really scary. So after that, I dealt with a lot of anxiety. I dealt with a lot of separation from my baby. I didn't feel connected to her. I've had really intense, intrusive thoughts. I just, it was a lot to try to figure out how to take care of me and take care of this new human. And that balance was, yeah, I had never experienced anything like it. Because I'm like, who do I prioritize? And so that was a really difficult time. So eventually I was like, I can't, my anxiety is so high, I literally cannot deal. And I had left that meeting, and literally either that evening or the next morning, I got a phone call from, I think it was you, Cass, or Haley, from the RISE program. And they were like, hey, last night I could really tell that you were in a bad place. Have you thought about a therapist? Like, I'm sending you, if you fill this out right now, like I will get you a therapist, like, or somebody for you to talk to. And I was like, you know what? Yep, yep, I will. And within a week, I had my first therapy appointment. I'm still in therapy. And it has been extremely helpful, because I also started a new job. So I feel like having a therapist allowed me to be able to like manage all of these new transitions all at once, like managing having a new job, managing having to put behind the trauma that my previous job had caused me while I was pregnant, like really being able to like manage those feelings, manage her going to daycare with the intrusive thoughts, like, so it just was, sometimes when you're in the thick of it, it's hard for you to get help yourself. And so I was just really grateful that, one, I had gotten at least the support group, and then they have always, no matter what the meeting, like checked in and been like, hey, last night seemed really rough for you, or I noticed that you left early, or I noticed that you were saying X, Y, and Z, and we didn't really get a chance to like hone in on that. Like, do you have a minute to talk? Let me hear more about that. And they have always called at the best times where I am like boohoo crying somewhere. And it's usually something baby related or quasi related, like, and they have like been with me every step of the way. And yeah, so I just feel like it's allowed me to keep my job. It's allowed me to stabilize in my marriage. It's allowed me to be a better mom. It's allowed me to have an outlet for the things that I'm feeling negatively, but it's also allowed me a place to celebrate my successes where I really feel like people care. And they're not just like, oh, well, it's a part of being a mom. So, you don't really get praised for making milestones as a mom. The baby does, but like, you don't get the wraparound that says like, hey, my marriage was terrible while I was pregnant. Like we are finally reaching some stability and people are happy. Like or I just felt the first connection to my baby at 4 months. Like, this is what this is supposed to feel like. And, people are genuinely happy, and it's also encouraging to other people too that are experiencing something similar. So yeah, it has helped me a lot. It has really stabilized me. I feel like I'm able to be a working mom and be okay. Like,
Tiffany,
I
I'm so
finally
glad to
start
hear
thinking
that.
about, like, oh, now I can think about maybe getting a job that I really like, or a promotion, or all of those things. Because before I was like, don't ask me to do nothing. Don't
Yeah.
ask me. I show up so I don't get fired. Like, that's where I was. So kind of reaching a place where I'm like, okay, like, give me more responsibilities, give me more projects. Like, I just applied for a promotion and got it. And I was like really excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I would
Cool.
not have done that had I not had like support along the way to help with these transitions. So
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear all of this.
Yes.
If you could imagine a world without Poem Rise in it, which I know is probably scary to even think about listening to your story, but just if the program had to go defunct tomorrow, what impact on the community do you think that would have?
I mean, I think it would have a huge impact. I shared with Cass the world that I came from. I was really knee deep into infant mortality work. And Black women at the time were 4 times more likely than any other demographic to experience infant death. And they were 3 times as likely to die during childbirth.
Wow.
And as a Black woman going into pregnancy, knowing these things was like terrifying in and of itself, even if nothing went wrong with my pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so having a place where I was able to go and get support, but also knowing that all of these other Black women specifically were able to like get support, to know like, you know, some of us don't die, some of us almost die and we survive and we're able to like be here. Like, some of us are getting misinformation, some of us are being ignored, some of us are not getting the support that we need, but we're able to find it here. We're able to get additional resources that isn't just like, support group. People think of support groups as just sitting around and venting, but it's not. It is, a place to be heard, a place to be seen, a place to get more information, a place to get more resources, a place to second what someone else said. So, or second what your gut is saying. So it would be, like I said, I truly do not believe that I would be at the place of, I'm using recovery for lack of a better word. Like, I really don't feel like I would be at the place of recovery that I am today, 9 months postpartum, without having the support of Poem Rise. Like, there just has not been other people that understand the experience, and your doctors are there to focus on your health.
Yeah.
But, they don't focus on your mental health. They don't take into account the difficulties that pregnancy is having. They do, which is why there's a flyer in their office,
Sure.
but not like, hey, I heard you when you said like you've been experiencing intrusive thoughts. Have you thought about seeing a therapist? Have you thought about seeing a practitioner that can maybe prescribe medication? Have you, they don't take that extra step, whereas Poem Rise does, and that saves lives. So,
That's fantastic, Tiffany. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
And Poem Rise, as just a disclaimer, is our umbrella that is specifically for African American Black women and birthers. And we call this space, it's your space. It's for us, by us. It's been such a privilege helping you and supporting you. And anytime you need this, we're here for you. Just proud of your recovery journey. And I'm so glad to be a part of it. So thank you, Tiffany, for talking with us today.
absolutely.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Mhm.
All right.